So let's say there's a land and you want to make a purchase, but then in the land that you made the purchase, how come that government of Belize will still retain rights to the minerals and oils of the land? Let's say you find oil right here, the government is going to come and just snatch that. How does that how does that happen if you bought the land? Well, interestingly, it has to do with this right here. If you look at the Tax Administration Procedure Act, you go right here. It says conveyance, form of conveyance, meaning transfer. It says notwithstanding means despite or regardless the provisions of the Registered Land Act. So regardless of the provisions of this act and or the provisions of the Law of Property Act, where any real property is sold under this act, the Director General, with meaning the head of the tax department, shall execute and deliver on completion of conveyance of the real property in the form set out in Schedule 3. Okay, let's turn to Schedule 3. Schedule 3. So this is a conveyance. It says this indenture made on this date between the Director General of the country of Belize, of the one part, and let's say your name goes here, herein called the grantee. So whenever you hear the word grantee, that means you're being granted something. So this is a trust for the other part. It says here, this is interesting, right? It says here that that in consideration the sum of whatever amount paid by the grantee to the government of Belize, the receipt whereof hereby acknowledged, the Director General dot pursuant to and in exercise of the powers vested in him by the laws of Belize relating to tax, hereby grant to the grantee all that accepting and reserving to the state. Now you read this, you'll be like, what the hell is that? What is this term accepting and reserving to the state? Well, let's ask, let's check it out. It says, what does the term accepting and reserving to the state mean? It says here, the term accepting and reserving to the state typically appears in legal documents and property agreements. It means that certain rights, interests, and resources are explicitly excluded from the transaction or agreement and are retained by the state. Okay, so for example, when a land is sold, the phrase might indicate that the state retains rights to minerals, water, or other natural resources beneath the surface. Essentially, it delineates what the state continues to own or control even after the sale or transfer of property. So, see, the system is set up already. The Director General is representing the crown and the best interests of the crown. So, when it grants something, like this is a grant of conveyance, it is not giving up the property completely with all rights, title, and interest. It is retaining some of the rights. So the one buying or making the purchase is being recognized as grantee, receiving property, but with certain limitations. So this is basically right here happening all the time. And it's just to understand the language. Who would understand this right here, right? It says here, accepting and reserving to the state out of the grant hereby intended to be made all rights, liberties, and benefits in respect of the said land, and every portion thereof reserved to the state under and by virtue of the National Lands Act, Chapter 191 of the Laws of Belize, to hold said hereditaments onto the use of the grantee in fee simple. You see the language this is written on? People every day sign these agreements not understanding the language. And this is why all property that people hold are essentially not their property 100%. the certain rights and interests are still retained by the government. That's just how it works, because this is what the contract is offering to the one who's accepting the contract and thereby agreeing to what is written. So that's how it works. Tax Administration and Procedure Act.